Hi everyone, this is Suzette for Cloudy Sky today. Today I'm gonna do the voiceover for a video I previously, I wore that chest thing while I was cooking. I don't like to talk while I'm cooking. Plus I sped it up because some parts I was moving very slow. I'll walk you through it. It's one of my favorite dishes, Ackee and saltfish. And I also did some side dishes. So let me get that started. Okay, yeah, I think I moved it a little bit too fast. So what I'm doing is the breadfruit. I like breadfruit as my salt, but it's raw, so I was told to wrap it up, rub some oil in it, wrap it up, use parchment and aluminum foil, put it in the oven, and then let it bake for 1.5 minutes. Then I'm going to take the codfish. I guess I sped this up a little bit too fast. And I put it in some salt water, let it boil, and I usually boil it a couple times. In the meantime, I'm going to prepare my veggies because I also have some callaloo, some Ackee and saltfish, and I'm going to season each of them so that if I want to eat just the callaloo I can, I want to eat just the saltfish I can, if I want to do the Ackee I can. So as you can see, I chopped it up. Trust me, it was much slower than this, but it's nice to be able to speed up stuff, which is what I did in the video footage. Then I add some tomatoes. So I have onions, tomatoes. So here I am chopping up the tomato with my big ass giant knife. Boy, this made me seem like such a wonder chef the way I cut. I sped this up 5 times. Not 1, not 2. Yeah. So, I mean, it was taking a long time, so I was just like, okay. But yeah, I like to cut up my vegetables while, the saltfish is cooking. The breadfruit is, because the breadfruit is going to take the longest. I also have some garlic. So far I have onions, tomatoes, garlic, and I have like 3 containers. One for the Ackee, one for the saltfish, and one for the callaloo. So the garlic, I have about 2 cloves each. And I have to say, I do like the chest thing for the phone versus the head thing, because it feels like it's gonna fall off my head, whereas this is on my chest and I could just use my hands, and it frees up your hands. You don't have to be holding the phone or trying to place the phone. As I move, you get the point of view. Now I don't cook too often, but when I do cook, I like to have a hearty meal, and I like to use a lot of spices. So here I'm using I'm checking my water. I'm using my salt, putting salt in my pot because I like to boil up my water so I can get the vegetables started. So with the saltfish now, I did a first boil. I have one of those nice pots with the strainer in it. I dumped out that water. I'm going to give it a second boil. I wish I could explain that part to me, but you buy the saltfish and you take out some of the salt. You don't just eat it well salted, but it's part of preserving it. I don't really know too much more about it other than this is what my folks did and I did it. So next I'm going to prepare the yam, the banana. Well, I went back to, I like to boil a little garlic in the water when I'm cooking the food. To me, it does, not just salt. I add a little garlic. Sometimes I add a little thyme. It depends on what I'm feeling like. But I don't like to just boil it in just salted water. I think the garlic gives it a nice little oomph. And that's how I peel a yam. I don't know about anybody else, but I take my time. I don't like to peel it towards me. Plus it got that slime factor on it. Most of the vegetables I bought, root food, I guess you would call it, I got at the neighbor's supermarket up the road. So I went up, got some yellow yam, and they said it was from Jamaica. and some green bananas. I even got a plantain too. Now I cook the green banana and the plantain in the skin. What I do first is, wash it and brush it off with a little water and a little vinegar, and to remove any hopefully pesticides and everything. But I like to cook it in the skin, and then once it's cooked, you just peel it off. I mean, you could peel it before and then cook it, but yeah, make sure that little paper, that's on there when I'm washing it, that comes off. Okay, it's washed. I even have the plantain soaking, so I wash the skin because I'm going to cook it in the skin. The only one I peel is the yam. And of course I rinse my, because sometimes when you're cutting up the food, and when I'm preparing the banana, I do a little slit, cut the ends, and then do a little slit. It's kind of hard sometimes to remember what I did, but I'm describing it as I'm watching this video. And I give a slit to the plantain, so like, plantains, bananas, they're cousins. But I like to wash the board in between because sometimes it has that little slime factor. Next, I'm going to prepare my callaloo. And the way I remember just seeing people do it, you strip the stalk so that, because it tends to be a little bit tough, and then you just chop it up like you would do cabbage or bok choy, or let me see which other green was. I don't really cook spinach, do I? Well, I never planted spinach, but I remember having callaloo when I was growing up, that we used to plant it. So what I'm doing is, trying to clean up the stalks, clean up the little florets, because I don't think I'm supposed to be eating that. I could be wrong, but I cut those out. And then just take the stalks and I'm just going to chop it up. Give it a little rinse. But yeah, I was in the mood for, some Caribbean. I like the Jamaican breakfast. I have callaloo. The ackee was from my tree. There's a previous video with me picking the ackee, cleaning the ackee. Of course, like my cousin says, you can get it in the can and you don't have to do any of that cleaning part. You just cook it. Add your seasoning, drain the can. I don't know if you have to rinse it. But I have a tree, so why not pick from the tree, eat from the tree. I just need to get tomatoes, onions, and scotch bonnet, allspice, thyme, and of course garlic. I almost forgot garlic. I love garlic and everything. I'm telling you, speeding up makes me look like a top chef, because you knew how long this took me. Wow, look at me. I'm just chopping away. So if you think about it, so I have the ackee and the saltfish, I have the callaloo. Well, I'm going to cook them all separate, and then if I want, I can put them in together. Then my side dishes is going to be the breadfruit, plantains, bananas, and yams. Sometimes people do fried dumplings or boiled dumplings, but I'm not going to do any flour products. I'm just going to stick with the more, it's still cooking, so you're still changing it, but stick with the yams and the bananas, etc. So the water is boiling, so I'm adding all that to the pot, so that way it can cook. And it takes about half an hour. I usually, because the way I cut the yam, it takes about half an hour, and I can always check the yam to make sure the yam is done. So now the saltfish is done. So what I'm doing is I let it cool, and I'm picking off the bone, because I did buy the one with the bone in. A lot of times this bone free is not cod. It's a different kind of fish. It could be ling, it could be pollock that they salted, but cod has a certain flavor to it versus the other fish. So what I do first is add a little oil, and whatever oil I have, whether it's grapeseed oil or olive oil, because those are two oils I tend to have. And I'm letting the oil, I'm gonna brown the saltfish first, after it boils, to give it that firmness, versus that sliminess, or I don't know. I'm not too big on boiled fish. You can see there's I'm picking off the fish flesh off the bones. And by the time I finish doing that, as you can see, it's not all the saltfish. And I don't like that slimy part, so I cut that off too. I have to say, this is the first time I bought that brand of saltfish, and I have to say I'm not buying that brand again. I'm gonna probably go back to, they changed the name of the store, but this other supermarket, and buy their brand of saltfish, because this one had by the time I'm finished, look how little saltfish. So I'm letting it, browning it in the pot with just oil, and added a little bit more oil to give it a nice firmness. I guess that's the right word. Well, you can see it, it's kind of like stuck on the bottom of the pan, but I added a little vinegar because that fish was extra. That saltfish for some reason was like extra raw. I'm not used to codfish being like that, but hey. Now what I'm going to do, after I get this nicely browned and everything, in this I'm gonna add in my ackee, the ones that I picked in the prior video. So once I add the ackee to the boiling water, and I use boiling salt water. Sometimes I would use the saltfish water, but that saltfish kind of had a funky little smell to it, like overly fishy. I didn't want to impart that flavor on the ackee. And then I add in the seasoning, because remember I did the thyme, the onions, the tomatoes, the pimentos, and the garlic. Pimentos are allspice, and I divided it into 3. And then see, I'm doing that pot back there where I put a little oil in my, actually I have a wok, and I'm adding in some powder seasoning, like some more garlic, some all seasoning on the saltfish and everything, after adding in the vegetables, and added a little water. And in the back pot, I'm just like, I guess, sauteing, with the oil and the veggies in the pot. And to that pot, I'm gonna add the callaloo. Now, my wok doesn't have a cover, so I use a circular baking tin. But I added in some seasoning first, but I use a, so that it can steam. I'm just stirring up so the seasoning is mixed throughout it. The ackee is boiling away. But yeah, I use one of those I call it baking tray. I have a circular one, and I use it to cover the wok. I don't have a wok cover. Okay, so that's my ackee. Some people actually don't give that ackee that salt water boil, but I don't know, to cook it down with the seasoning without doing that first, I'm just not used to it. So there, I use that round baking tin to and I finished the bananas and everything, move it into a different container so I could free up my stove. And it's just sitting on the side because it's still, I let it cool a little bit, but before I put it in the refrigerator. So what I'm doing is pre-measuring my seasoning, putting a little oil in the pan that I had the ackee in, so that the oil can heat up. I am gonna season those vegetables that are already cut. So there you can see I have complete seasoning. I have garlic powder. I have black pepper. So now I threw the onions, scotch bonnet, tomatoes, thyme, garlic, and allspice, pimento into the pot, into the heated oil, letting it, and then I put the ackee in. I use that same strainer pan.